I think I'm a bit slow. This isn't exactly news. Everyone talked about this before already, but I still think like I need to contribute something because Pete Docter said, and you know who Pete Docter is. The guy is basically the head of the Pixar Animation Studios, a very important guy in the industry of animation today. So he basically said that Pixar is not gonna make therapy movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and instead Pixar is gonna focus on movies with broader appeal, like they used to, presumably. So, and I think this is exactly the problem with Disney, with what Disney does, because this video is not about Disney. I don't want to talk about Disney, but I'll still talk about Disney for a minute or so, because the problem with Disney, especially today, is that they're trying to make the films, the products, the content basically for everyone. They're trying to appeal to absolutely every demographic. At least I don't know what's going on their streaming service or on their channel, if the Disney channel is still alive. I'm not sure about that. But the thing is, when it comes to their high budget production like Star Wars, Marvel, and their own cartoons, they essentially follow this formula. They try to make it for everyone, and you know, when you try to please everybody, you do not actually please anyone. You just make a very bland, very tasteless piece of a movie that actually has nothing to say. If you try to please everyone, you cannot essentially touch very important, very relevant topics, because certain topics, political topics, might offend someone, and you don't want to offend people. You want people from different countries, different genders, nationalities, to just races, to just come and watch and bring your money. And of course you cannot mention certain things because, well, some demographic might get offended and not come, okay? So this is why, politically speaking, the Disney movies are so limited, and this is why they're not. This is why I don't like whatever Disney does. And essentially, Pete Docter is saying that Pixar should do the same thing. Pixar should stop focusing on creators' personal stories. Like Elliot bombed last year because presumably it was Adrian Molina's very personal story. I mean, Adrian Molina didn't even finish the movie. He was essentially asked to, step down and not finish the movie because this is Adrian Molina's version. Again, presumably people watched his original version. They presumably did not like it and said that nobody's gonna pay to watch this, and the original version was scrapped, and Pixar had to remake it essentially into something more general audience friendly. How should I put it? I don't know. Essentially, so what I want to say now is that I do not understand, I do not get that position. I mean, you cannot really find an absolutely unique experience. Every creator that goes through something, who wants to express their troubles, their problems in their art, in their movies, like Adrian Molina tried in Helio, or like Domishi did in Turning Red. I mean, most of those experiences are more or less universal for many people. I mean, Elio was supposed to be about a kid, a queer kid who is, it's essentially a story of a queer kid who is not accepted by his mother, who is a military officer, by the people around, since he lives with his mother in is essentially military compound. I mean, this story about the person who feels like an outsider due to sexuality, due to something else, maybe due to some health condition like neurodivergence. It's a very appealing story. It's a very appealing story. It's not something that only Adrian Molina experienced. It's not even something that only queer people experience. It's like this feeling of alienation, trying to belong, trying to accept yourself. So it's like a very universal theme. So I really do not see anything wrong with making a personal film such as Original Elia, I mean, it can appeal to a lot of people go through something, a lot of people struggle with something. These movies do not have a limited appeal. Like, for example, The Turning Red, as I already mentioned, yes. It can appeal to a lot of people who moved to a different country, who try to adjust to a different country while trying to hold on to their original roots. Some people have living in other country have troubles retaining their original roots. Some people feel ashamed. I mean, you understand the point. These are very personal stories of their creators, but at the same time they have very broad universal appeal, because whatever problems we are experiencing, whether with sexuality or neurodivergence or our ethnicity, immigration, etc., they are universal for millions, for hundreds of millions of people across the world. And who even says that you need to experience whatever the characters experience in order to understand, in order to enjoy the movie? Like, for example, Turning Red. I always use Turning Red as an example because I'm not 12. I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I am Asian, but that's about the only thing I have in common with the main character. The only thing. I'm obviously, as I said, not 12. I do not live in Canada. I'm not a fan of boy bands, etc. I'm not from China. You know, I do not have experience, and her gender is very important because it's a metaphor allegedly for growing up, for menstruation. And I know, of course, as a guy, cannot relate to menstruation because I did not go through this. But it still doesn't mean that I cannot like. I really liked this movie. When it came out on Disney Plus, I watched it. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it's not exactly super relatable to me, but I enjoyed it. Or, for example, Soul. I mean, obviously, I'm not a African American middle-aged jazz musician. That's obvious. But I love the movie. I related to the main character. You don't need to be a black African American jazz player living in New York in order to relate to the main character's personal struggles, in order to, you know, whatever you do, maybe you're a writer, you're a coder, architect, or whatever. When you see this scene when the main character gets completely gets completely devoured by this process of creating, of playing music. It's like a lot of people who are in programming or arts or whatever, they also get completely devoured by the process. They forget about time. It is a very universal experience for every passionate person in the world. You do not need to be black or a musician for that. Broad appeal, again, a very personal story that everyone can enjoy. So yeah, or K-pop Demon Hunters, for example. I mean, the main character Rumi, you can say that her struggle is a metaphor for accepting your queerness. Like, her family, everyone is trying to tell Rumi that she must pretend that she's straight, that homosexuality is not accepted, and Rumi is trying to hide her homosexuality, and at the end of the day she accepts herself and her friends accept her and she becomes happy. Or maybe she's not homosexual but autistic, and people are trying to tell her, especially her family, that she's supposed to behave like neurotypical people, that people do not accept people with autism or other health conditions, that you're supposed to be normal. And again, at the end of the day, you cannot really hide that you're not normal, neurotypical. You must accept it, and people around you will also accept. I mean, you can insert any otherness. Maybe you're an immigrant or a child of immigrants, or you have some health condition. I mean, autism is a health condition. I mean, something physical. I mean, maybe something is wrong with your body, with your face. Maybe you do not fit in the society. But insert anything, and it will work. So essentially, anything will work with Rumi. I mean, it can be personal, but it can also be broad. So That's what I'm trying to say. Whatever Pete Docter said, it doesn't really make much sense. I mean, Pete Docter himself, 10 years ago, he directed Inside Out, and it was a highly popular movie. It was so popular that the sequel that Pete Docter did not direct, but the sequel has become the highest grossing Pixar movie of all time. The first one was that popular, and the first one was pretty much $100 million therapy session for Pete Docter. It is what it is. Pete Docter Pete Docter created a therapy movie for himself, Inside Out, and it is probably the most popular the most popular Pixar movie today. I mean, judging by the box office of the sequel, it certainly is. So what is Pete Docter even talking about? What is he talking about? I mean, I think he's just trying to justify the failure of Alia. I mean, he's just trying to say that, look, Alia was too personal, okay? That's why it failed. Not because of poor marketing from Disney, not because the movie itself was frankly not really good. Because again, one person started it and other people finished it. Of course, it was bound to be a disaster. Such situations where an original author is pretty much asked to leave the project and other people finish the original author's project. These projects rarely end up being good. I mean, we had the Hobbit trilogy where Peter Jackson wasn't even supposed to direct it, and well, what we got was not really good, of course. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. A movie being $100 million therapy does not mean that it's not going to be successful, that it does not have a broad appeal. I mean, the personal stories, in my opinion, are the best form of art. When you write a personal story about your problems, when you write something that is very close to you, you give everything you have, all your creative passion to the story that you want to tell. And as a result, you get an actual author-driven, creative, passionate story, which is much better than some generic crowd pleaser that tries to please everyone. Ironically, the personal stories that do not try to please the crowd oftentimes end up pleasing the crowd. Again, Turning Red, Soul, Inside Out, K-pop Demon Hunters, and projects that try to be for broader audiences, like basically whatever Disney does with Marvel or Star Wars. They end up not pleasing anyone because they end up feeling absolutely bland and uninspiring. So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And Pete Docter's statement again, I really did not expect something like this from him, and yeah, he didn't give much thought to his statement. I mean, I don't think Pete Docter really believes what he says. Again, I think he was trying to justify why Alia was such a huge letdown. I mean, that's what it is essentially. Okay, thank you for listening for this, and see you again.